So, Dr. Jim Taggart, welcome to Know My Life.
Nicole, I'm really grateful to be here. It's nice to see you, and I'm really looking forward to this part of a journey with you and I, talking about really my life, so thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here, Jim. I don't think there's enough time to go through your life today in the little bit of time we've got, but let's hope we can get a snippet of it and the essence of it and share that, and also a little bit about the community work that you're doing at the moment. So looking forward to it. So Jim, let's go back to the very beginning. Tell us where the Dr. Jim Taggart story began.
It's a really good question. I think the Dr. Jim Taggart story happens every day, but in terms of the person that he is, I'm saying, but I grew up in a housing mission place at Ermington. One of three boys, unfortunately lost a brother very young. I was only about 5 or 6, and my youngest brother Colin took some pills. They thought they were lollies, because in those days the containers were not screwed on and they were easy to take the lids off, and Mum was very sick. She was a pensioner. Dad was an alcoholic, and you know, a story that's fairly common. So I'm not saying that for the sake of people feeling sorry, but that's just part of my story about who I am today and when I went through. So yeah, there was that. Went to a public school, went to Macquarie Boys High, left there and went to Dundas Maris Brothers, and basically left school at before I was 15.
Wow, left school before you were 15. And so how did you transition from that into running your own business, working in the finance sector? How did that sort of transpire, Jim?
Well, life gives you challenges and you're not quite sure why they happen, and you think back on things. I'm really a product of all of that today. If people ask me what are your attributes, I think one of them is definitely hard work. I'm a very hard worker. I wouldn't regard myself as intelligent or anything like that, although I think that I'm reasonably okay in that area, but it comes through hard work. My brother was very good to me, and I'll tell that part of the story. What essentially happened, we were young, we lived by ourselves. Mum was very sick, she was in hospital for long periods of time, 6, 8, 12 months at a time nearly.
Wow.
And not many people know this, but my brother and I were, in those times they call them a boys' home, but it wasn't a boys' home, it was a Church of England home where they looked after kids who didn't have parents. We had no one to really look after us. So we lived at Croydon in a Church of England home for about 12 months. Anyway, we came back and my grandmother kind of looked after us in a roundabout way, in a very roundabout way. And then I decided, and Mum was at home and different things, and decided to just walk out of school. So I literally walked out of school.
Wow.
Well, it wasn't for me. Mum was a pensioner. We didn't have much at all, and school had no relevance. I couldn't see when you're worrying about trying to eat and clothe and do a whole range of things, money played a much different role, and the world in which I lived. And so I did a lot of labouring. That's all I did, was labouring and so on. Enjoyed playing sport, different things, and
a lot of lessons learned through playing sport too as a young man.
Oh, massive sport. I loved sport. I used to do athletics. Again, not very good at sport, but I played a lot of sport. I used to love to swim, athletics, cricket, and football. But coming back, what happened was I'm just trying to make sure that I'm very clear about the process that happened. I actually started an apprenticeship as an electrician.
Really?
Yeah, and I was going to become an electrician. Wasn't very good at that, and basically there was a lot of labouring in it, and I was, in my own mind, wasn't going anywhere. Anyway, so I decided to go to TAPE and do the school certificate at night at TAPE.
Wow.
So I worked of a day and I went to TAPE. Now, at this stage, I was only 16.
And you just decided to do that off your own back?
Yeah, I was going nowhere, to be honest, and somehow I was really blessed that people in my life helped me. As I said, we didn't have a dad, and again, that's very common. Mum was really sick. We had a mum, but we didn't have a mum. And so my grounding and my own standards have really come from myself and my brother about what's important and what's not. And when you got to eat and no one's going to feed you, you got to work. And that was it. The Smith family fed us, and Vincent de Paul, Bernardo's, all of those.
Wow.
And so you get really good at working out who's going to feed you.
And you said people around you, so were there influential people, teachers or...
No, none of that, just families, some families that really were really instrumental in helping me understand things and taking me to football. We didn't have a car, never had a car. Even when Dad was there, we didn't have a car, didn't have any of that. Not that that's a big deal, but so material things just weren't on the horizon. So I did the school certificate, and I did that at night, and it was really hard. I worked as a labourer, and I used to work. And it's quite interesting. Here's another little stories going back. When we were 11 and 12 and 13, we had part-time jobs. I had a chemist run. I sold papers in West Ryde in the pubs. I made more money. I learned. We used to go around the street selling papers because you used to have a paper boy. And I used to ride my bike from Ermington to West Ryde, do the paper run, and I found selling papers outside was really good. Now remember, I'm only 12, 13. I'd learned because the guy said to me, come inside and you'll sell more papers. So I used to walk in around the pubs. They were packed in those days, the local inn and that at West Ryde, and sell papers. And I made a lot of money and tips selling papers. And so I learnt the skill, if you like, of selling at that age, going in there. I could have sat outside and sat down, but I can remember I used to always be saying, paper, get your paper.
Yeah.
And people would know, and they'd buy the paper and give you a tip. They also taught me how to play pool. So I've got to be honest.
You spent all your paper money playing pool.
They taught me how to play pool. It was really funny. I was intrigued with it, and I used to be able to pot a pretty good ball at times. I'd go in, and the guys were fantastic. I put my barrow there, and they'd take it, and no one ever took a paper.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
yeah.
And I used to play pool. I was only 13. I'm being really honest, and so on. Anyway, I did that. I had a chemist run. They used to have chemist runs where you used to take things. So I did that in West Ryde as well. So I worked on a lot of labouring jobs, went to TAFE, did the school certificate, and then I thought, well, I need to do some education. And at that stage, I think I was 18, 19, yes, around 18, 19. And I went to TAFE and did the school certificate full time, and my brother supported me.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Hugh.
well,
What's
it is.
his name?
Hugh, and a great bloke, a really fantastic friend and brother. There's only the two of us. Mum died when I was only 21, and Dad died, he was 57, but we didn't know him. We only recently found that out at 30 years ago type of stuff. And I was married when we found out. So coming back, I did the school certificate, but I did it the 2 years in one. They used to have the 2 years at one at Meadowbank, and the teachers there were absolutely brilliant. They were so good to me. They know I was a bit of a rascal. They were. But they were really good to me. I couldn't speak highly enough, and that's one of the reasons I like helping TAFE today, and we'll get onto that story why I do the things. The teachers there were unbelievable in terms of understanding. So when you come out of certain environments, it's easy to criticise the person for who they are or what they are. They knew, as I said, I was a naughty kid, not a bad kid. There's quite a bit of difference between that. And so I did the school certificate. The high school certificate. I didn't do very well, because I still wanted to be a young bloke playing football and doing a whole range of things, and I thought you just had to go through the motions. And I guess if you want to say, did I fail? I failed it. So I don't like to fail, and that's something that's very strong in me today. I went back and I did it again. Anyway, I got enough to get into Teachers College, but I failed the English paper again. To be really honest, you asked about honesty. So I did that. I went and saw them, and they said, you do the English paper again, we'll let you in. And so I did, and I went to teach.
I find that really interesting that someone who left school at 15 because she didn't see the relevance of school then decided to become a teacher.
Yeah, and again, I can't explain why. I really don't know how that transpired. But the people that I was at TAFE with, particularly doing the HSC, or university entrance, but it was the HSC, were just fantastic.
They changed
And
your life and your view of education,
I-
probably.
I really firmly believe that. I think my religion's very important to me. Am I a good Catholic? I'm not sure. I mean that in the sense I'm just a human being having a crack at life. But they helped me immensely. And then the principal, Brother Ambrose Payne at a Catholic Teachers College, basically said, you do the subject, I had an interview, I'll let you in if you pass. And so that was a challenge to me. Again, that was put on the table. I accepted the challenge and I went and did that and saved some money. My brother supported me through that, and I'll never forget that. And so
What a
I
gift.
worked part-time as well, but he supported. And we were living in the same housing commission place that we grew up.
Amazing.
Yeah, just my brother and I. Interestingly, I accepted the challenge that brother had asked me, or required from me, more so. And I came back and I was admitted to Teachers College. And the interesting thing is, I can remember it distinctly, at the end of the year, success became an important part, and failure, I don't know, but I have this deep thing within me not to fail, and I don't know where that's come from or whatever.
Probably from survival, maybe survival instinct. or
And I'm
something.
very strong about it, Nicole. Really interesting. I can remember I topped first year of Teachers College with a nun. The two of us came first at the end of that, and I thought that was a real privilege. That was an interesting year. My mum died that year, which was pretty tough, and I can remember her dying, and I can still remember it was 26 minutes past 1, we're at home, and we get a bit emotional about it. But yeah, so that happened, and I think I knew my mum, but I didn't know my mum, to be quite honest. She went through a really hard time, very hard time. And for reasons that only people can try and guess why, or I don't understand why. Anyway,
But living in that environment,
living in that environment,
build a resilience or something in you. We just off camera saying before that success isn't just a middle-aged man who's now a professor. It's success is a little boy who won't let adversity stop the dreams he's got for the future.
And that's what's happened. You get a taste of things, and you get challenged by life. And I think just in our little break a moment ago, I said to you, one of the things that's really important for me to say is that I'm not a big fan of blaming other people for where I'm at. I'm really big about that. I can rest on my laurels and say, oh, I was a no-hoper, or I didn't achieve anything in life because of my mum or my dad, or we didn't have this. And that's why I am. And everyone goes, yes, of course. That's not my view, or what we call ontology. That's not my view of life. My life is that I've been blessed with a level of intelligence and gifts, and I'm saying, have a crack.
I also know about you, Jim, that as much as you wouldn't blame anything difficult on other people, you also, with great humility, very rarely take credit for all the good things in your life either, that you will share that credit with the people around you. And I think that's one of the beautiful qualities that people in this area love about you.
Well, thank you for that. We better move on then.
You start crying a minute.
But that's really nice, and thank you. But I mean, my view of people is I love people. Are people clumsy and do they annoy you? Yes, the same as I'm clumsy and annoy other people. But I value people. Do people try and pull the wool over your eyes? Absolutely. Do people try to hoodwink you? Absolutely. But I have a view of life that people basically are good. That's been my view about people.
Beautiful.
So, and I still subscribe to that. Ironically, at the end of first year teaching, my view was to go over mates and go and finish Teachers College and go overseas. There's a lot of young men or young guys. I actually, in the January of the second year, met Carol. I was only 21. And the rest is really history from there, because that really has been, as I said, every day has been the development of this person's in front of you now.
Man, hasn't she changed your life?
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, Nicole. It's only really, I've really appreciated that in probably the last 5 to 10 years. Have I appreciated it all the time? Yes, but at a much deeper level in the last 4 or 5 years in particular.
Why do you think that is?
Because life places on you so many demands to achieve, to get material things, to do this for your children, and it's really hard to try and keep relationships together and to do that.
is.
And you need to remind yourself of the relationships. And there's quite a lot of research that says that people, when they get married or relationships, while they start off together, they move different because their own personal lives are different. And then at this predetermined date, when the children are off their hands, they try to come back together, and they're two very different people 30 years later.
Yes.
And they say, well, this is the person, and no, that's not the person. So to come back, so I met Carol, and ironically, this was not on the drawing board. 12 months, nearly to the day, we were married.
Wow.
I was married at 22. I was at Teachers College. She worked. I worked at an RSL, pouring beer and different things like that. We lived in the housing commission place that I grew up in for a couple of years, and she worked, and then I finished Teachers College, and then I started teaching. And so since then, we've been married 38 years. We've been blessed with 4 beautiful children. We're having our 7th grandchild. So I could not ask for anything more than what I have.
You've got a good life, Jim Taggart.
As I say in the movies, I'm in a good paddock.
You are in a good paddock.
Yeah, I am.
You've got a good partner there with you.
And I say that unequivocally, or that's a nice thing to say. She's had to put up with a lot. I'm a pretty hard horse at times. I'm very demanding. But that's come out of where I came from. And when you're given an opportunity, this is what it saddens me, when people are given an opportunity and they blow it. Now that's okay, we all do that. But when you're given opportunities, it saddens me that they blow all of them. You know, there's a saying that says opportunity doesn't always knock on the front door.
Yes.
And so, if anything for people, is to harness and take what life gives you. Now, life doesn't always throw you a straight ball. You know?
That's true. So how long were you teaching for before?
About 10 or 12 years.
Tell us about that period of your
I
life.
loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was fantastic to take people and to help them grow and to help them achieve their goals. I couldn't ask for anything more. Could not ask for anything more. I was fortunate I taught at Parramatta, and it was great. All the lessons and doing that. And that was really interesting because I wanted to continue to achieve. So I would teach every day. I had a part-time job, but I also went to uni 3 nights a week because when I went to Teachers College, you did a diploma of teaching. But in order to get more money, to get a higher pay and to advance, you needed to get a degree. This is in the 70s. So I was married. I couldn't go again at full time. I had commitments and so on. So I did my first degree part-time at Macquarie. Well, I've done every degree, all my study other than my teacher's diploma part-time. And that's 4 or 5 of them now. I mean, I think I'm doing my 5th degree now.
So tell us about the degrees that you do have. Just list them off.
Well, no.
Have we got long enough?
No, not really. But just, I've been very fortunate. I enjoy study from the point of being challenged to grow.
Well, teaching and learning is obviously a very, very big theme in your life.
I love it. I do. If I haven't learnt something by the end of the day about me, something technical or whatever, then I think I'm poorer for not going out and trying to do that, honestly, because I've given the most valuable resource I have away that day, and that's time.
Yeah.
I can't get back yesterday.
Right.
It's gone. But what did I learn about yesterday to help me get a better tomorrow?
Yeah,
now that
great.
sounds a bit, cliche, but it's not. It's about becoming smarter, about dealing with people, dealing in business, dealing with yourself.
Absolutely.
So
tell us what you've studied, Jim.
Well,
mainly teaching.
Yeah, well,
electrician.
Well, I didn't finish the electrical
Okay.
thing. That's why I went to tape. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I didn't finish the trade. I went and did my BA at Macquarie Uni. Then I did a Masters in Education because I thought I was going to stay in education
Yes.
for all of my life. And I got guidance that, Jim, if you wanted to become a deputy principal or you wanted to do that, you're going to have to get more qualifications. So I went and did that. And I finished, and I was very grateful as a deputy principal at a school at Blacktown, Nagle Girls High. It was a 7 to 10 school and it was great. At that stage, I think we had 2 children, and something inside me wanted to do business and to do those things. So I started selling life insurance and different things in the late 80s.
Was that while you were still teaching, or had you finished?
Well,
How did you transition?
Well, it was interesting. I was doing it part-time. I'd met some guys.
So you're teaching and studying and this up. It's just
yeah, I was doing that.
So many balls in the air, Jim.
Well, but that goes back to Carol when we're talking about saying how she's always given me enough rope to let me go. Now, sometimes she yanks on it.
Yep.
Right, as you ladies do, but she gave me enough rope because I think she saw that I could achieve as well and to grow as a person, and the benefits to all of us. And so I decided to leave teaching and start selling life insurance, and I did that. And the interesting thing is, I remember how life goes. I remember seeing Sister. I was deputy principal. I'd made my mind up. Carol and I had agonised and talked about stuff. And I had to professionally tell her, so
break the news.
Yeah,
you were
to
leaving.
her, and I didn't want to just do it in a letter and leave it to her. I wanted to sit in her office and tell her, and so on. It was really interesting. The day, I'll never forget it. The day that I told her was in October 1987 that I've decided to make a decision. Now, for a lot of our viewers and listeners, that mightn't resonate much with you. It didn't with me at the time, but the world stock markets had fallen some 40% that day. And she said to me, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to become a financial planner."
Oh dear.
So it wasn't the
Not
best
great
day.
timing.
The timing wasn't the best.
But nonetheless, you made a great career out of that.
Absolutely. And so, a bit like a chameleon, you continue to change and adapt. And I think there's an important principle in that about life. So I had finished that part of the journey of my life, and when you've got 3 children and school fees and so on, and I worked on commission only. So
You must have been selling a lot of life insurance then.
I was, and I knew a lot of people, and it was great. But it was tough. I mean, it was really tough. Every day you went out and you worked and you
Well,
worked.
there's not much tougher. That's probably one of the things that would be least likely to be on someone's list of things
To say,
to do in
here's
it.
Jim.
You know,
Yeah.
let me go, leave this wonderful career in teaching and go and be a life insurance salesman.
That's exactly right. But I really firmly believe in that, not the product, but believe in what it does for families. And I've had, unfortunately, many death claims and different things where you've been able to give families dignity and to give them the things that we talked about for their families.
That you guys didn't have.
And for them, the reality of sitting with their husband or partner and being at their funeral. I mean, that is very emotionally draining on you as a person, to carry on the things that you really did want to talk about that were meaningful for them at that grave and looking at their kids.
Amazing. You've done some incredible things. So that business, how long did you have that business for?
25 years, and it grew and changed. And Carol was fantastic. Raising the kids, we worked at home. We worked in offices, and then we worked at home as we grew, and then moved and did those things. We were really fortunate that the people we had who came with me on the journey, our staff, I'm not a big fan of the word staff, but people the team were fantastic. They really believed in me. I think we had a good story to tell, and they supported me. I was very demanding, and I don't mean in a bad way, but they in themselves were incredible people who helped me in that journey. And I couldn't, and I want that to be publicly known. I couldn't have been who I am today, and we'll talk maybe about Carol, but without those people who helped me, particularly our staff over those 25 years. They were just incredible in really believing in what we're doing, and I'm just so grateful for that.
But that wasn't all you were doing during that time, Jim, we've come to know
Yeah.
and love you.
Yeah.
In that time, you've embedded and entrenched your business in the Hills community.
Yes.
And become a stalwart in the community, doing many, many different things. So tell us about some of the things you've done. You've been involved in the business side of things, in chambers of commerce.
Yes.
The sporting side of things, in you said church is very important.
Yeah.
Your faith in
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
health. I know disability sector.
Yep.
So there's so many different things that you've put your hand to, Jim. Tell us about some of the things that are most dear to your heart.
Well, I hope people watching and listening to this pick up some of the themes that I've been talking about. One is, I said earlier on that I am the person today because of other people helping me through that.
Sure.
Whether it be an institution like St Vincent de Paul, Smith family, our local church when we were growing up. I can tell you stories where a fruit shop when I grew at Ermington used to give us what's called spec fruit. I don't know if you know that, 3-day-old fruit that they couldn't sell. And Mum would cut that up, especially peaches and apples and things, cut the core out of them, and they used to bottle them
Right.
and things. The point I'm trying to say is that people help me to be the person sitting here right in front of you now while you're talking to me. So somewhere in that journey, I've taken the same stance of helping other people. And I love helping people who I don't want anything from. I hope people understand that in the nicest way, of helping people who really need the help. Because I could not give anything to people who help me. I don't know if that makes sense to you,
Totally
right?
understand. We need people from the overflow of what they've got, have something to give, with no expectation of receiving anything back.
And those people who took me to football, those people who fed me, those people who clothed me, those people who gave to me, knew at that time in their life, I couldn't have given them one thing. And they gave that for a
Isn't that
really
beautiful?
honest and humane way of helping
Yeah.
people.
And so now you do that?
I do that more
Oh,
so,
I know you do.
right? And I do that so that hopefully there's another Jimmy Taggart who takes on through that and helps other people. And I'm very passionate about that, really passionate about doing that. And people say, oh, you do too much. And I say, by whose standards? You know, I think the challenge for people in life, I've come from nothing, and I mean nothing, to being very comfortable in life. And I think in my own religion, in my own life, the challenge for me now was the challenge to get out of there. Now the challenge is to help other people, and that's what I think I'm being asked in my ministry.
Yes,
And Nicole, I think
understand
you
that.
understand that.
I do.
So I'm saying
What you've been gifted with is
I've
for
given
a
you that.
purpose.
I've been the footprints for you to follow,
Yes,
and now I'm saying to you, continue on the journey that I want you to do to help others.
beautiful. Love it.
And so
That's lovely, Jim.
that's why I help.
Yeah.
And sometimes people see that you have ulterior motives. They think, oh, and that. Only a small group. It hurts you sometimes. It doesn't now. People say, oh, you're doing that for that. And I say, well, I can't defend that because that's what you believe.
That's right.
Right? I can't. But most people know
Your
if you want
intention
something,
is pure.
Absolutely. If you need help, you've only just got to ask me, and if I can do it,
You
I will
will.
do it, or I'll find someone to help you to do that. Now,
Well, you certainly get asked to help a lot,
yeah,
Jim.
I do.
So how do you decide which things you'll put your hand to?
Yes, that's really interesting. What I'm trying to do at the moment is try and act in a adversary role or in an advisory role for people to help other people. I've now got to the stage where I can nearly just phone a lot of people to help people.
Sure, connecting the dots.
Connecting the dots for people without doing it as much.
Great.
But I do, as I said, Carol has been absolutely wonderful for me to allow me to do all the things that I want to do and continue to do to grow as a person.
Yep.
So,
And so the things that I know you've been involved with, as I said, chambers of commerce, financial services,
Yep.
you know, sitting at the very top of the ladder of financial services
Yep.
association, so lots of member club type
Yep.
things, sporting groups, Western Sydney Academy of Sport.
You've done your homework.
I know, well, I've seen you, Jim. You know, spending time one-on-one with people who need help,
Mm-hmm.
sitting on the board of your church, the Northwest Disabilities, the TAFE advisory position that you've had. There's been so many. One that I really want to ask you about is Eagles Wraps.
Yes.
Tell me about that one.
You have done your homework. I'm in awe of the people and the whole philosophy of Eagles Wrap. Many of the young people there are similar, have similar backgrounds, and I'm just absolutely blown away again by the ministry. That might not be the word they use, but
Sure.
by their charter of what they want to achieve. And when
So it was originally established to assist with as a drop-in centre,
that's right, as
for people who were very similar in circumstance to
similar
you as a young man.
environments and situations in life, and I came across these wonderful people, Sally, absolutely amazing people about doing things to help a lot of young people and to give them chances to grow as people. And I try to help as much as I can there because of the great work that they do.
So youth suicide prevention is now an issue as well that they're addressing?
That's a phenomenon that's worldwide, in particular Australia-wide. In fact, 15 to 24-year-olds, the number one incidence of death used to be through car accidents. It's now suicide.
Isn't that tragic?
Right? This year has come out as the number one. And so that in itself, I mean, I find life precious. And there is so much pressure in all of those things I can't understand, but I try to work through. So I love the Salvation Army's philosophy in the sense that they try to fix the broken person or fix the situation rather than worrying about why they're in that. The why's for another day.
Yes.
So for
The immediate need.
the immediate
just
need
address
is to
the
help these
immediate
young
need.
people
Sure.
through education, and I'm hoping that that's come through about how I perceive education with regards to the importance of it. So I've turned my attention towards trying to help them get resources, particularly financial resources, with a number of my colleagues and friends to help them. We just finished a trivia night. We've had nights to raise funds, over the last couple of years.
So what are the services that they actually offer, Jim?
Well, the services are they provide an education vehicle for their school certificate and higher school certificate. It still has that drop-in facility, that process where young people can go, and they can really go and talk to them and try and get a better understanding of helping them through those very difficult times.
That's wonderful.
It is, and I resonate with that because, again,
Obviously.
yeah, I do. I resonate because life's not neat, and that's what I was trying to say. I had a mum and dad. I had no control over that. I've tried to say that I've got a control over my life at a later date.
Yeah.
I had to step up to the plate and do something. I either turned right or left. Pretty easy to turn left in life and then blame someone else. Turning right's pretty hard.
You did it.
Yeah, and I want to now try and help other people
Do the
through
same
those,
thing.
through the situation.
So
they're
how can other people jump on board and assist Eagles Wrap, Jim?
Give me a call. I'll give you my number and please help us. Yeah, books, pens, anything. We don't get any government funding at the moment.
Wow.
We've lost our government funding.
Okay.
And
so there's a deep need there.
Oh, there's a massive deep need. We have probably about close to 100 young people now. They've been going 19 years, and so when you do the maths, these guys who run it are just absolutely salt of the earth people.
And if you can change one life like yours,
Yep.
look at the ripple effect of that. So 100 young people
Yep.
whose lives are being changed. It's
Yep.
generational impacts.
And that's what we're trying to achieve for these young people. And education is the vehicle to help them
Yeah, that's
get
great.
through that. Yeah.
So talking about the generations, Jim, you're in a new season of life now. You've sold your business.
Yes.
We see you many times around at networking events and business events and community and charitable events, but always the first thing to come out of your mouth these days is these grandchildren of yours.
Oh yes. Again, I don't know what to say that I'm blessed. I've been to a Christmas party this morning, a very important Christmas party, and saw Santa and the whole things, and just amazing to see them grow, and to see their parents, and the greatness of it is that they're my family, and to see them grow, and so I have an important role in trying to help them become better people in themselves and for their own children. They're their children, they're my grandchildren. But, you know, as a family, the importance of family is so critical, and yet family today is a very different and challenging. So we have our blues the same as any other family, and I don't do things right and they don't do things right, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. But at the end of the day, there's plenty of love in our family about caring about each other.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I'll never, I say this, particularly my boys and my daughter, but I will never apologise for telling you I love you, even when you do something wrong.
Yep.
And if I'm doing something wrong, you tell me. I mean, these are grown adults, they're, in their 30s. But what I want to see, in life, I'm in the second half. I always say, I love sport. Life's like a football game. You have the first half, and you run around and you do what the coaches tell you and everyone tells you. Then around 40, you go into the dressing sheds and you have a bit of a rest and a drink, and you sit down and you think, well, what's it been all about? When you come out for the second half, I'm not going back into that dressing shed. The game will finish.
That's right.
There'll be a full-time hooter. So you start to think about what's important, and for me is to do as much as I can, like Mother Teresa, like Mahatma Gandhi. They fought to do as much as they could, and against great adversity. And so for me, I want to give as much as I can away. And there's a saying that says, it's not what you accumulate in life, it's what you give away. And what is it you give away? Helping someone, not just money, helping them become better people.
Yeah.
So that's my second half.
Great, Jim.
That's really important to me.
And what's that going to look like, do you think?
That's a great question. See, I don't want, when people come to my funeral, saying, gee, that's a really lovely casket, gee, Jim had a lot of money, or gee, that's a nice hearse, or, look at the flowers, it'd be $5,000 worth of flowers. I just want a cardboard box thrown in, because the only thing that I'm going to take with me is my reputation.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing else. They're not going to say, gee, he lived in a big house, oh, gee, he drove a nice car, gee, wore nice suits. If that's the sum total of my impact on your life, have a guess who's failed? Me. I've failed if you say, oh, gee, Jim wore a nice watch, or this. No, throw me in a box, cardboard box, and say, game over, but mate, what he did for people will carry on forever. And that's really important to me.
I think that's assured already, Jim. It's been great having you here today. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful hearing your story and being part of sharing it with Know My Life.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. I'm delighted. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Thank you.